Why do men struggle so much with emotions? Why do they often resist feeling them, acknowledging them, expressing them? In this video, I outline 4 understandable reasons why it's difficult for men to be emotionally expressive. Hi, I'm Sarah, a professional counselor with over 20 years of experience and the mom of 4 boys and 2 girls. In my videos, I work to empower men to enrich their masculinity with the strength of emotional control and awareness. Real home improvement starts within. There are 4 factors that contribute to men shutting down their emotions. The first 2 are more external, the things that they are given as messages from the outside world. The second 2 are more internal, the way that they've learned to be. Now, I'm aware that this is a wide generalization and doesn't apply to all men, but I do think it remains true that most men are receiving many of these messages, and we need to change that in our culture. Okay, the first one is socialization. Essentially, the experiences that they get being in this world, in this environment. We need to think about what kind of environment are we raising our boys in? What kind of messages are we sending them? What are the pressures we're putting on our men today? The media sends many of these messages through commercials, TV shows, movies, comedy sketches, sports, politics. Boys are taught in loads of small ways and big ways, direct ways and subtle ways. Not being girly or emotional, not needing people and being independent are manly. Our society has historically handicapped boys with very limited representations of what it means to be a good and strong man. In the simplest form, he has been given 2 choices: the tough, independent guy you wanted to be, or the rejected dope you feared being. The strong, manly man, you know, the guy that is handsome, muscular, strong, independent. He is silent, he has such inner strength, he needs no one. All the women want him, but he is free of commitments because no one can tie him down. He has all the answers, he's never confused, never needs help. He was gifted with divine inherent strength by virtue of him being born with dangly genitalia. Here are some examples of exactly the guy that you are meant to be. The other option is the weak dimwit. This guy can't manage his life without a lot of help. He's immature, he's like a kid in an adult man's body. If he's married, he has to be told what to do. We make fun of him in our shows and our commercials about how dim-witted he is. He can't remember to do the simple things like put down the lid on the toilet. He can't do laundry because he's gonna mess up all the colors. He can't remember an anniversary. He backs down in any fight, keeps his head down, and he just surrenders. Here are some examples of those characters in our society. Given these limited options, which one do you think that boys are gonna choose? It's not hard to see how the stereotypical strong, independent man would become the ideal and become the model of who our boys are meant to be. The learning starts young. Can we talk about elementary recess? I have 4 boys, like I said, and I can't tell you the times that I've heard of boys being shunned or teased or criticized for falling down and crying, for not being very masculine and ruining the game for the other kids, for playing with other girls and being too girly. And when a boy is ostracized young for being too girly or wimpy, they learn fast. That is not acceptable and they must change. We've really started the gender stereotyping early on. They're indoctrinated. So I talked about the environment outside of the home and how influential that is for children. But now I want to talk about the second one, which is the influence in our homes. The ways that we subtly teach our boys how to live up to the gender norms. We give them messages, they're very subtle, they're very early. Interestingly, we are less likely to talk to our boys with emotional language. We are more likely to tell them things like, oh, stop crying, get over it, buck up, pull it together. Essentially, if a boy is struggling, he is allowed to have 2 feelings. One is feeling fine, and the other is being pissed off. To drive this point home, let's think about the conversations that we actually have or hear with small boys. Do we ask them, are you feeling insecure about playing against last year's champion? Are you feeling anxious about going to school with your new haircut? Are you feeling worried that you're going to be embarrassed in front of other people when you struggle with math? Do you feel ashamed when you get a little tongue-tied around girls? Instead, this is usually what we tell them. Oh, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. Oh, that's normal, get over it. Oh, plug through, move on. Ah, screw them. Basically, we teach them to shut down those feelings. In other words, just repress them. If they have an uncomfortable feeling, generally they're supposed to tune it out, or they might be allowed to show it through anger or frustration. But then we usually see them as conduct disordered and naughty, and we punish them for that too. So what I'm talking about is giving our children a limited vocabulary for their emotions, specifically our boys. And interestingly, there's actually a word for this. It's called normative male alexithymia. Essentially, it means it's normal for boys to have less words for their feelings. Again, this is only because we've socialized them in this way. But then it makes it very difficult later in life when we're asking them to be expressive about what they feel, because in some ways they don't even have access to those words. They haven't been taught them. They've instead been taught a very limited vocabulary, and it feels very frustrating for those of us that might be in a relationship with them when we want them to tell us about what they're feeling, what are the deep, rich emotions that they have inside. And honestly, they really don't know. We need to help them have a wider variety of all the richness of their emotional world. So I see this all the time. I work with couples, and I can give you a classic example.
I'll see a couple come into my office. Generally, I'll ask what is their presenting issue, and the wife will start. She will tell me about some of the things that she's feeling in pretty graphically clear language. She has a lot of frustrations that she's able to express. I'll then turn to the gentleman in the relationship, and he generally has little to say, no expressiveness, which frustrates the wife because she wants to know more about what he's struggling with, what he's feeling.
Well, it turns out that there is no truth to this belief that women are emotional and men are not. When we think that boys are less emotional, the reality is that they are biologically the same emotionally as girls. But we have taught them something different in our society, that somehow that's not right, somehow that's weak, and we've taught them to shut those feelings down. Okay, the fourth area is the patterns of behavior. Essentially, boys and then men develop patterns of behavior based on their belief system. If they are taught that emotions are for girls, that they're not manly, that that's not something that they should be showing to the world, they become emotionally controlled, emotionally repressed, self-reliant, non-disclosive, non-vulnerable. Even though none of those things are actually what's happening in the body, that's only what's happening in the mind, telling them something that is actually contradictory to the experiences of the body. Thus, we're often contributing to the energy of those emotions being stuck and contributing to physical ailments like heart disease and chronic pain. So in this, there's a disconnection from self. An internalization of this belief that if I feel this, somehow that is wrong, somehow that is not manly. Again, anger might be acceptable or withdrawal. Essentially, manning up and telling yourself that it's not a big deal, and if you make it into a big deal, somehow you're a wimp. If emotions are considered illogical, irrational, or nuisance, people will do anything they can to avoid them. Okay, today I've given 4 factors that contribute to men shutting down their emotions. 1 is what we teach them in our society. 2, what we teach them in our home through our interactions and role modeling. 3, what they develop as a belief system. And 4, the patterns that they then become habituated to. If we're talking about men struggling with emotions, and if this is an area of difficulty in relationships, don't you think we need to do something better in our society to teach them? So while there's a great quality in learning how to be strong and be able to manage emotions, that's very different than repressing emotions and trying not to have them. I'm not promoting everybody just being emotional and sharing every thought and feeling that they have. That's not healthy either. But there's a big difference that we need to help teach between regulating them and suppressing them. Our guys would really benefit from us giving them more permission to feel them and then learning how to handle them better versus telling them that they shouldn't have them in the first place and then punishing them for not talking in relationships, not being fully present in the moment, having anger issues. If you found any of this information helpful today, please like down below and subscribe to this channel. Please comment about what topic you would like me to cover. I'm really trying to do this from the perspective of a woman so women can understand some of the challenges of men and men can get this experience of having a woman. It's not vilifying them for some of the challenges, but informing them about why that might be and how we can move forward so you can learn how to be healthier internally and interpersonally. Thanks for watching.